At my mother's 60th birthday celebration, everything seemed perfectly normal. Then my 11-year-old called me on her smartphone. "Get out now." "What happened?" I asked, my heart racing. Her voice trembled through the phone. "Get out of the house." I obeyed without question. It was the last time I ever stepped foot in my parents' home. 3 months later, they were desperately begging me to forgive them. It was just a Kanreki celebration, a traditional red vest and paper lanterns kind of gathering. My mother had made that elaborate chirashi sushi she always prepares when she wants to appear effortless but still superior to the neighbors. My father was telling one of his well-worn stories about surviving the post-war Reconstruction era. My sister Yuki had brought red and white balloons and was pretending she hadn't spent the morning screaming at her 2 young children. In other words, everything felt achingly normal. The kind of normal that seeps into your bones when you've lived with it your entire life. Same tatami smells, same voices echoing through the 2-story house, same predictable rhythms, polite laughter mixed with subtle complaints. My daughter Hana had vanished somewhere upstairs to draw or read her books. There was store-bought manju, cheap sake, traditional background music playing softly, no visible drama, no raised voices, no tension crackling in the air that I could detect. I wasn't even truly present. I was just floating through the motions, keeping my head down and my mouth carefully shut like I'd trained myself to do over decades. Keep the atmosphere light and harmonious. Don't bring up uncomfortable topics. Smile like you're not exhausted. Play your role perfectly. Looking back now, I want to grab myself by the shoulders and shake hard. How did I miss the undercurrents? How did I not sense that something was terribly wrong? But I didn't. If anything, I had foolishly convinced myself that maybe things were finally improving. That perhaps we'd all somehow settled into a peaceful coexistence. I even caught myself smiling genuinely once or twice during the celebration. And then my smartphone buzzed insistently. I pulled it from my pocket and stared at the screen in confusion. Hana calling me. That was highly unusual. She typically just appeared at my side if she needed something. I glanced around the crowded living room, didn't spot her anywhere. Maybe she was in the upstairs bathroom or out in the small backyard. I answered quickly. "Hey, what's wrong?" Her voice slammed into me like a physical blow. "Get out now!" I froze completely. The room continued its celebration around me, but I became a statue like the very air had suddenly changed composition. "What happened?" I managed to whisper. "Just get out of the house, please, right this second." Her voice was shaking violently. She was barely breathing the words. She sounded genuinely terrified. I stood up slowly, my legs unsteady. My mind went completely blank, then exploded with panic. What's happening? Did someone hurt her? Did she fall down the stairs? Was there a stranger in the house? I didn't ask a single additional question, just walked directly toward the front entrance. Not one word to anyone in the room. Not a glance at the beautifully arranged food table or my mother's radiant smile. Not even a pause to grab my shoes. I moved like my body had been possessed, like I was watching myself from outside, observing this person walk mechanically through the house. When I stepped outside, the evening air was still pleasantly warm. The small garden smelled like freshly cut grass and someone's expensive perfume drifting from the neighboring houses. And there she was, standing perfectly still by our small car. Her school backpack slung over one thin shoulder, her intelligent eyes locked directly on mine. She wasn't crying. She wasn't moving at all. For one terrifying moment, my heart completely stopped beating. Actually stopped. Then reality crashed back over me like a wave. I rushed to her side immediately. "What's going on? What happened? Should we leave right now?" she said quietly. "I don't want to talk here where they might hear us." "Just get in the car." I studied her carefully, her small hands. Her pale face, the way she clutched the straps of her bag like a lifeline. She wasn't physically injured, but she looked completely hollow inside. "Did someone shout at you?" I asked gently. "Did someone say something cruel?" "No," she said firmly. "Not exactly like that. Just please, let's go." I nodded, my voice refusing to work properly. I simply turned, unlocked our small car, and climbed in behind the wheel. We drove away in complete silence, not speeding, not dramatically, just disappearing. No one witnessed our departure, or if they did, no one attempted to stop us. She stared fixedly out the passenger window. I gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. My brain was desperately trying to fill in terrifying blanks I didn't possess. Did she overhear something horrible? Did someone hurt her emotionally? Did someone threaten her safety? Was it one of Yuki's children? Was it my mother? My father? Every possibility seemed plausible. Every scenario was worse than the previous one. I wanted to demand answers immediately. I didn't. We pulled into the parking lot beside an old flower shop several blocks away. It was closed and perfectly quiet. I turned off the engine and just sat there, hands trembling. "Okay," I said finally, as gently as possible. "We're completely alone now. You can tell me exactly what happened." She didn't respond immediately. I looked at her profile. Her small hands were folded neatly in her lap. She was still staring straight ahead like a statue. After what felt like an eternity, she said, "I don't want to go back there. Not to Grandma's house. Not to Grandpa. Not to that place. Not ever again in my life." I felt like someone had punched me directly in the stomach. Her voice wasn't angry or melodramatic. It was flat, brutally honest. The way you speak when you've already made a life-changing decision and carried it around in your head for hours before finally saying it aloud. "I don't understand any of this," I said softly. "I thought everything was going perfectly. What happened?" She simply shook her head firmly. "Please don't make me go back there." I sat there staring at the steering wheel, trying desperately to make my brain catch up, trying to connect dots when I couldn't even see the puzzle. "I won't," I said finally with absolute certainty. "I won't take you back there." And that was it. She didn't explain further. I didn't push for details. We just sat in heavy silence, me wondering frantically how I'd completely missed whatever she had witnessed. Her quietly trying to hold herself together in the passenger seat beside me. I kept replaying the entire day in my head, examining every look, every comment, every moment I might have missed, and I found absolutely nothing. That's what terrified me the most. I didn't see any of it coming. I had lived in that house for years. I knew these people intimately, thought I knew them, and she had seen something that made her want to run for her life. And I would never forget the way she sounded on that phone call, like her very existence depended on escaping, like mine did too. Before any of that crisis, though, there was a whole complicated life that led us to this moment. I was the eldest of 2 daughters. You'd assume that came with natural authority, leadership, maybe even some parental favoritism. Not in my traditional Japanese family. In my family, being the eldest daughter meant you were the experimental subject. The let's see what happens if we push her this far child. When I turned 15 and got a part-time job at the local bakery, my parents applauded like I'd just won a national art competition. Not because they were genuinely proud of my work ethic, but because now I could contribute financially to household expenses. "Everyone contributes equally in this house," my mother declared, dismissing my protests when I wanted to buy myself a decent pair of jeans. By 16, I was dutifully handing over half my paycheck and working weekend shifts nobody had requested. I convinced myself it was noble, family-oriented, maybe even mature beyond my years. Then my sister reached the same age. No job requirements, no financial pressure, no mention of contributing anything. She got to sleep until noon and spend entire days at the shopping center with her friends, while I was drowning in dish soap and overtime hours. I asked my mother once, very carefully, why the expectations were so different. "She's just not built the same way as you," she said, as if I was a sturdy factory model and my sister was delicate porcelain. So I swallowed the unfairness. I didn't want to appear petty or ungrateful. I didn't want to create family conflict. Besides, I was managing okay. I had ambitious plans. I had a promising future ahead. Or so I naively believed. I married young, probably too young. But I genuinely thought I was happy. My husband Takeshi was charming in that quiet, passive way that makes you think someone is naturally easygoing. He wasn't. I worked constantly. I had an excellent job. Better than excellent. Long demanding hours, impressive salary, solid professional reputation. Takeshi was unemployed. Said he wanted to spend more quality time with Hana. Said I was naturally better at the career-building stuff anyway. And at that time, the arrangement worked perfectly for me. I didn't question the growing imbalance. I didn't realize how quickly inequality can start feeling completely normal. Then things shifted gradually at first. He became short-tempered, emotionally withdrawn, snapped at minor irritations more frequently. His presence in our home started feeling like walking carefully across cracked glass. Nothing completely broken yet, but you could feel the instability in every step. And it affected everyone, not just me, but our daughter too. Not physical violence, not visible bruises, but constant shouting, door slamming, suffocating silences, threats muttered just quietly enough to deny later. The final breaking point was the suck bottle. He hurled it violently across the room. Didn't hit anyone directly. Didn't mean to, he claimed afterward. But our daughter was standing in the hallway when it exploded against the wall. She flinched so hard she dropped the ceramic mug in her hands, and something deep inside me cracked irreparably. I didn't wait to see what escalation might come next. I packed a bag, took my daughter, and walked out permanently. I returned to the one place I never thought I'd need again, my childhood home. Except it wasn't really home anymore. My parents took us in, technically speaking. But it was crystal clear from the very beginning that their generosity came with a steep price. By moving back, I was forced to abandon my career. There was absolutely no way I could maintain that demanding schedule as a single mother. Not with family court hearings, trauma therapy sessions, school pickups, and a child who had started flinching at any sudden noise. And in my specialized field, part-time positions are practically mythical. I settled for something flexible and embarrassingly underpaid. Enough to barely survive, not nearly enough to truly live, and definitely not enough to support anyone else financially, which created a serious problem because for years I had been their reliable golden goose. When I was still earning substantial income, I'd sent my parents money every single month, covered major bills, handled smaller expenses without being asked. I even paid for their all-inclusive vacation to Thailand 2 summers ago. They still reminisce about it like it was the absolute highlight of their entire lives. So when my monthly checks stopped arriving, their comfortable lifestyle took a noticeable hit. Quiet, but definitely noticeable. They weren't openly unhappy, but you could see it in countless small ways. The way my mother sighed heavily when reviewing the grocery receipts. The way my father mentioned the utility bills twice every week without fail. The way they suddenly forgot to include me in the family group chat, and the house felt uncomfortably overcrowded. My sister and her husband were also living there, along with their 2 energetic toddlers who possessed the destructive energy of caffeinated animals and absolutely zero volume control. They lived there essentially rent-free. My parents absolutely doted on them, watched their children constantly, provided free babysitting, bragged about their achievements. So I reasoned, if she can stay here with her chaotic circus, surely I can stay too, right? But it didn't feel right from day one. I immediately noticed the subtle shift in treatment. My daughter's artwork didn't remain on the refrigerator for more than 24 hours. Her dinner plate was cleared before she could finish eating. Once she was scolded for talking too much when all she'd done was laugh at a cartoon on television. There were pointed stares. Not from everyone constantly, but frequently enough. She noticed the hostile atmosphere too. Of course she did. She stopped spending time in the common areas downstairs. She clung to me more desperately. She asked repeatedly when we could have our own place again. And I reassured her we would, that this was just temporary. That family was supposed to help each other. I genuinely believed that until the day she called me and told me to get out of the house immediately. We sat in our small car parked under a drooping cherry tree in a quiet parking lot. My hands remained on the steering wheel, but I wasn't planning to drive anywhere. I finally gathered enough courage to speak. "Can you tell me exactly what happened back there?" She didn't hesitate this time. Not at all. "Grandma and Grandpa and Aunt Yuki, they don't want me living there anymore." She explained they were having a conversation. I was in the bathroom. They assumed I couldn't hear anything. I stared straight ahead, letting her continue speaking. "They said they're going to send me back to Papa, that I'd be better off with him, that they're actively planning something." She delivered this information like she was reporting the weather, completely emotionless and detached. "I don't want to go back," she added, still looking directly out the window. "I don't want to be anywhere near him." I didn't say anything immediately. She had accidentally overheard a detailed plan to return her to the man I'd deliberately taken her away from, and I hadn't detected a single warning sign. When I was a child, I thought betrayal would be loud and obvious, like someone jumping out yelling surprise while holding a weapon. Turns out it was much quieter. Sometimes it hid behind bathroom walls and whispered through thin house divisions. Sometimes it was carefully planned by the very people who raised you. I looked directly at her. "They said what exactly?" She didn't even blink. "They're planning to make you lose custody of me." They were talking in the kitchen. I was in the upstairs bathroom. "They didn't know I could hear." I waited there, listening to everything. "They said you'd lose custody anyway eventually, that they could help accelerate the process, that Papa would take much better care of me, and if I went back to him, then you'd return to your old high-paying job. Start helping them financially again." I opened my mouth, but no sound emerged. "They said you'd be better off without the burden. She paused deliberately. They said they could plant something in your belongings, drugs maybe, so it would look terrible to the authorities, and then call the child welfare office. Complete silence. They want to frame me. She simply nodded. Her lips were pressed so tightly together, they had turned completely white. And you're absolutely certain about this? They said everything, Mama. They said it all clearly. That I'm too much trouble. That I never stop talking. That the house is overcrowded and it used to be so peaceful. They said you're not financially useful anymore. And that he was always the superior parent. I felt something fundamental shift inside me. Not snap, not shatter, just shift completely, she said. So I packed everything I could carry. I left quietly. I called you. I looked down at her small backpack on the floor. She'd remembered to grab my phone charger. I nearly broke down completely right there. Instead, I turned the key and drove directly away. I didn't return home. Not for clothes, not for explanations, not even for my toothbrush. I drove straight to Ryosuke's apartment. Ryosuke and I have been close friends since we were 10 years old. Never dated, never attempted romance, just one of those rare human treasures. A platonic male best friend who appears when needed, stays quiet when appropriate, and always has extra toothpaste available. He opened the door holding a coffee mug and wearing only one sock. I need to stay here tonight, I said directly. He looked at me, then at my daughter, and stepped aside without asking any questions whatsoever. That's exactly why he remains in my life. That night, we slept on his comfortable couch. Hana curled up beside me, unnaturally quiet for a child. I stared at the ceiling, counting the rotations of his ceiling fan and trying desperately not to scream. My phone buzzed 17 times throughout the night. I didn't check it even once. The next morning, I attempted to appear normal. I brushed my hair carefully, found socks that almost matched, packed my daughter's lunch and added a napkin with a terrible doodle of a cat. I kissed her cheek gently and said, "You're incredibly brave." She nodded solemnly. No smile, just solid courage. We walked to her school and they were waiting there. Of course they were. My parents standing by the school gate like members of the Yakuza, except carrying shopping bags and wearing that fake polite tension people display when they're about to say something awful. My daughter froze in place. "It's okay," I said firmly. "Go inside. I can handle this." She ran off quickly. I faced my enemies directly. "Where have you been all night?" my mother snapped immediately. No good morning greeting, no hug, no apology. "I think you already know the answer," I replied calmly. "We've been calling constantly," my father added accusingly. "You disappeared with her." "I didn't disappear," I said clearly. "I removed my daughter from a place where people were actively plotting to destroy my life." My mother blinked rapidly. "Excuse me?" I didn't flinch at all. "She overheard you in the kitchen while you were laying out your detailed custody sabotage plan." "That's completely ridiculous," she said quickly. She must have misunderstood the conversation. "Did she misunderstand the part where you were planning to plant drugs on me?" Her mouth opened, then closed without sound. A deep flush crept up her neck. "We were discussing hypothetical scenarios," she mumbled weakly. "You've been extremely stressed. You quit your job. The custody battle isn't going well. You've been struggling," I interrupted sharply. "I've been struggling while you've been busy plotting my complete collapse because your spa weekends disappeared. That's not fair at all," my father said defensively. "We've helped you tremendously." I laughed. Actually laughed out loud. "You housed me after I paid your bills for years. After I paid for your week in Thailand and bought your expensive coffee machine." My mother's eyes narrowed dangerously. "This is about money now." "This is about loyalty," I said, "which you sold for a better chance at comfortable holidays." "We just wanted what's best for her," my father said. "You're fighting constantly." He was always so wonderful with her. "He threw a sake bottle at the wall while she was in the room?" I snapped. "He wasn't a father. He was a threat, and you knew that perfectly well." My mother folded her arms defensively. "You're being emotional. You're blowing this completely out of I'm done," I said. "I'm done letting you twist this situation. You tried to destroy my custody case. You tried to erase me as a mother so you could return to being financially comfortable." There was complete silence. I looked between them. "You want comfort? You'll have it. Starting right now. You'll never hear from me again. Not a single yen, not a visit, not another ounce of my energy." "Don't be so dramatic," my father said dismissively. I turned away. "You haven't seen dramatic yet." And I walked away without looking back. That night, Ryosuke found me in his kitchen, arms wrapped around a mug of tea I hadn't touched. "You okay?" he asked gently. "No," I said honestly, but at least I know exactly where I stand. My daughter appeared in her pajamas holding the terrible cat doodle napkin in her small hand. She didn't say anything, just sat next to me and leaned her head against my arm. I didn't cry, not because I wasn't completely devastated, but because I was too emotionally exhausted to produce tears. I'd lost my parents. Or maybe I just finally admitted they were never really mine to lose. What I hadn't lost was sitting right next to me, and I'd burn the entire world down before I let anyone take her from me again. You'd think after everything that had already happened, I would have learned to relax when things became quiet. But I didn't. Silence, I discovered, is just betrayal taking a breath before the next attack. It had been several weeks since we'd heard anything from my parents. No messages, no threats, no random relatives reaching out to check on our situation. Just eerie stillness. Ryosuke called it peace. I called it deeply suspicious. Hana was recovering slowly, gradually sleeping through the night again, eating regular meals again. She'd started drawing these fascinating little comic strips of wolves fighting snakes. And I didn't ask questions because they all ended with the wolf winning decisively and curling up in a safe den with her cub. That was good enough for me. I was still staying at Ryosuke's apartment, I say still. Like I had some lease lined up and just hadn't signed it yet. I didn't. I had absolutely nothing lined up. And Ryosuke, bless his patient soul, hadn't once hinted that we were overstaying our welcome. He made Hana pancakes and me coffee and said things like, "You can stay as long as you need." And I started believing he genuinely meant it. Then came the job offer. It was perfectly flexible. It paid exceptionally well, and I wouldn't have to sell my soul or abandon seeing my child just to afford decent cheese again. I didn't cry when I received it, but I did lock myself in the bathroom and laugh until I started coughing. That job was my first piece of the old life, the good part, clawing its way back to me. So naturally, that's exactly when I saw the photos. I wasn't even snooping intentionally. I opened Instagram to check if Hana's school had posted any updates about the upcoming art exhibition. And there they were, my parents, relaxing on a beach with Takeshi. Takeshi, sunburned and grinning like someone who had the judge's personal phone number. Yuki was there too, looking smug as a satisfied cat, holding a coconut drink like it was legally admissible evidence. The caption read, "Family first. So proud of the kind of father he is to our granddaughter." I didn't drop the phone. I just stared at it, then turned the screen toward Ryosuke and said, "Well, that explains why they've been so quiet. They're turning their betrayal." He didn't say anything for a long moment. Then he handed me a cookie. That's exactly why I love him. 2 days later, Child Welfare Services showed up at the door. They knocked at 900 a.m. on a Thursday morning. I opened the door half-dressed. Hana was brushing her teeth and Ryosuke was somewhere in the back trying to fix the leaky faucet with the world's smallest wrench. "We received a formal report," the woman said, clipboard in hand. Her colleague standing slightly behind her, scanning the hallway like we might be hiding drugs in a potted plant. I didn't have to ask who had reported me, but I did anyway. "It was your parents," she said matter-of-factly. Of course it was. They claimed I'd run off with Hana, that I was emotionally unstable, that I didn't have a permanent residence, that I was involving strange men in my daughter's care, which I assume referred to Ryosuke, who was currently in the kitchen pouring juice into a cup shaped like a unicorn horn. They checked the bedrooms thoroughly, asked Hana several questions, inspected the refrigerator, found absolutely nothing concerning, said we'd hear back only if further action was needed. I thanked them with the emotional warmth of a plastic bag. Then I went into the bathroom and vomited. The next day, I sat across from my lawyer while he poked at a salad and said things like, "This is serious, Akane." "No kidding," I muttered. He explained that if my parents testified for Takeshi in the custody case, which was now only days away, it would damage my case significantly. "They're close family," he said. "They know you intimately. If they paint a picture of instability, it'll carry substantial weight." I looked at my lawyer, who once wore a tie with flamingos on it to mediation, and asked, "Do you think I'm going to lose her?" He sighed deeply. "Not if she speaks for herself." That night, Hana asked me if she would have to speak in court. I said yes if she wanted to stay with me. She didn't even hesitate. She just said good and returned to sketching her wolf comic. This one featured snakes wearing grandmother wigs. The courtroom smelled like air freshener and lies. Takeshi appeared in a suit so stiff it looked like it was wearing him instead. My parents entered after him, sat directly behind his chair like they belonged to him now. Yuki didn't even glance in my direction. Hana sat beside me, swinging her legs nervously. Ryosuke gave me a reassuring half smile and sat in the back. A steady shadow of support. The first day was absolutely brutal. My parents took the stand and claimed I was moody and emotionally unstable. My mother said I'd always been excessively sensitive. My father nodded like he was being interviewed for a documentary called How to Destroy Your Daughter in Court. Yuki echoed their statements perfectly. Takeshi was a wonderful father. She said he stayed home. He cared for Hana. He was always patient and understanding. I wanted to stand up and scream. Then why the hell did I leave him? But I didn't. I sat there, nails digging into my palm while they described a version of me I didn't recognize. And then finally it was Hana's turn. She took the stand like it was a school presentation. Looked directly at the judge, not at her father. I want to live with my mother, she said clearly. She listens to me. She makes me feel completely safe. She's never yelled at me. They asked about Takeshi. She hesitated briefly. Then said, he gets angry. He throws things. He threw a bottle once. It scared me terribly. Complete silence. And then she said, I don't want to live with him. I don't feel safe. They asked if anyone else had ever made her uncomfortable. My grandmother and aunt said they wanted me to go live with him, that they were going to make Mama lose me. They said they'd put illegal things in her bag to get her in trouble. Dead silence throughout the courtroom. I wasn't crying. I couldn't cry. I felt like I'd been dropped into a vacuum. And that should have been enough evidence. But the universe wasn't finished. During the break, Takeshi approached my mother. They were arguing intensely. I couldn't hear the words. But I saw the motion, his hand grabbing her wrist hard and sharp. She yanked it back forcefully. My father stepped in protectively. Takeshi stormed off angrily, and that was the last time they ever stood near him again. They didn't return to court. My lawyer told me later they'd withdrawn their testimony and that we had enough evidence. We returned to court. My lawyer brought intense fire. He laid out the money trail, the car, the vacation, the hidden assets Takeshi hadn't disclosed during our divorce. It was all documented there, receipts, bank transactions. He'd bought their loyalty with cash. And when the money stopped flowing, so did their support. The judge ruled in my favor completely. I got full custody, no visitation rights, no contact permitted. Takeshi left the courtroom red-faced and sweating profusely. My parents didn't appear at all. The week after the ruling, their vacation photos vanished from social media. The car disappeared. The financial glow dried up completely. Ryosuke showed me a screenshot of one of my mother's posts before it was deleted. Sometimes family is the hardest lesson. I laughed. Actually laughed out loud. Fast forward 1 year. I still wake up sometimes half expecting a war. But then I look over and see Ryosuke snoring into a pillow and Hana curled up on the other side with her wolf plushie. And I remember we're okay now. Ryosuke and I ended up together romantically, which still surprises me. For the longest time, I didn't see him that way. I'd known him since we were children, back when he used to eat crayons and swear he'd be a firefighter priest scientist when he grew up. I think I'd filed him under permanent friend material and just left him there. Turns out he'd liked me for years. He told me one night over burnt toast and terrible wine that he never said anything because he didn't want to ruin what we had. But then something shifted. Maybe it was the way he held Hannah's hand at court, or the fact he never once tried to fix me, just stood beside me while I unraveled and reassembled myself. Maybe it was just perfect timing. Maybe it was everything. All I know is one night he kissed me and I kissed him back, and suddenly the whole world made a bit more sense. He's good to me, better than I thought possible. Hana loves him completely. He builds cardboard castles with her, listens to her wolf theories like they're scientific gospel, and lets her win at video games exactly half the time. She told him the other day, "I'm glad you're part of our pack." He cried in the hallway, denies it, but I saw it clearly. There was one attempt from my parents to reconcile. They showed up at the door one Saturday morning with pancakes. Literal pancakes. Like the smell of betrayal comes with syrup. They said they didn't understand what Takeshi was really like and that maybe we could move past everything. I didn't even get to answer. Ryosuke stepped into the hallway, looked them dead in the eye, and said, "You need to leave now." Hana peeked out and nodded like backup support. They left. I haven't heard from them since. I did hear through mutual acquaintances that things haven't been easy for them. Financially, they're struggling. Some people, extended family, old friends, cut ties after finding out what they tried to do. Apparently, trying to frame your daughter to win back a free babysitter and vacation fund doesn't play well at the local community centre. Me? I'm doing okay. Actually better than okay. I've got a stable job I genuinely like, a daughter who laughs in her sleep, and a partner who makes me feel safe in ways I didn't know I needed. It's not flashy or perfect. It's not perfect, but it's mine, and I'll fight like hell to keep it. Did I go too far or not far enough?